We know him from countless television, films, voiceover, more specifically for all the nerds out there, from the Hobbit film trilogy, the Netflix series Castlevania, the Saint of Killers in the AMC series Preacher, but we know and love him best as Dougal MacKenzie. Please give it up for Graham McTavish.
Hello. Oh my! What a build-up! What a build-up! That's this is a very unusual experience.
It's totally unusual, and I can't wait to get Lotte out here in a bit, because I just want to talk about even the hours difference that we are right now is incredible. Oh, yeah. But thank you for coming in with that good gruff. The good gruff Graham McTavish we know.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get a much lovelier register from this next amazing actor. Again, we know her from countless television shows and film. She is a professional award-winning dancer as well, which is near and dear to my heart. We know her, again, nerds out there, from the Borgias, Agent Carter, and the Blacklist. But we met her first, for the first time, as Geillis Duncan. Geillis Duncan. Let's hear it for Lotte Verbeek, everybody.
That intro, man. I'm going to have to live up to that now. I mean, award-winning dancer.
I think this should be your announcement when you go into a Starbucks.
Yes.
I think this
have somebody
should be
announcing me the voice.
Have that written on your cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have really large drinks.
Good.
What a difference! What a juxtaposition of the entrance to the yay entrance. It's love.
That says it all, really.
It really does. That's all we need.
I'm drinking coffee.
Yeah, let's quickly talk about that. This is again, we're having fans from around the world. We've got fans watching in Australia. Graham, you're calling in from New Zealand.
I'm practically next door to them. They're probably just around the corner. Yeah, well, 1,200 miles around the corner, but nevertheless.
What time is it? What time is it for you right now?
It's 7 a.m. in the morning.
Oh my goodness.
So it's because it's winter here. It's completely dark outside.
Oh my!
So it's quite strange. But it's great. It's great. I love the fact that actually we're able to coordinate with all of these different people, which we're not to do in a physical convention. So it's kind of
so
cool.
much easier this way, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
And so wait,
very much so.
For you, it's Tuesday now, isn't it?
It is. I live in the future. Yes.
There's the time travel element. There we are.
That's exactly. I'm going to put my hands on the screen, and then I can come and visit you.
Graham, do you ever get a joking fan asking you if you've already seen the previous episode of Outlander and spoilers?
Yes.
Because you're so far in the future. I believe it. I believe it. These fans are avid and passionate and loyal and oh my gosh. And again, around the world, which is so cool. Lotte, tell us where you are tuning in from.
Well, I'm in Amsterdam. If you sniff in really deeply, you can smell the weed.
Oh wow!
Present here.
Is it as I've never been? Is it as sort of stereotypical as we imagine?
You know what? For years now that I was living in the U.S., I've been defending my people, saying, "No, that's something that tourists do. We don't really do that." And sure enough, the first night in this new house, I wake up and I'm like, "Really? 10 o'clock in the morning?" And that was coming from the backyard, just some neighbor, smoking some weed.
Wow.
So there's not a lot of tourists right now. I mean, tourism has really sort of halted here.
Yeah.
So this is us doing this. So unfortunately, I cannot defend this any longer. We do this.
Oh my God. And Lotte, what time is it there right now? It's the evening, right? Late evening?
Yeah, 9 o'clock at night.
My gosh.
Yeah. So we it's not to get dark here. It is summer here, so hence the summery outfit.
Yes, hence the wintry outfit.
Yeah. Like you said, Graham, the connections that we've been making through these have been truly amazing. Again, to have 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. I'm in New York. It's 3 p.m. We have folks watching on the West Coast at 12 p.m. the day before you, Graham. You know what I mean?
It's so crazy, isn't it?
It's insane. But that just goes to show you, the true fandom that shows like Outlander really have. And I'd love to kick it off. I remember when we did this at a Chicago convention years ago, I was assigned to Outlander, and I immediately was like, oh my, these fans are going to show up and they are going to quiz me on everything that I need to know. So I binged hard on books and the series and have been a fan ever since. Yeah, I've been a fan.
Well done, Mike.
Well, I think the fans, they are loyal fans. They know every detail. And I just want to get your impression on that. Again, being part of this series, being to conventions for Outlander around the world. What is it like when you see these avid fans for this particular series?
Yeah, they're extraordinary. I mean, the only other comparison I have would, I suppose, be from having done The Hobbit. And the Hobbit, Tolkien fans are notoriously very dedicated, and they're very steeped in the knowledge of everything Tolkien. But Outlander fans outdo them. They do. They really do. I mean, they are very, very passionate indeed, and they travel everywhere. It's amazing, and I've met many of them on numerous occasions. So it's lovely. It's like a family. Yeah.
Graham, you were the first person who told me, I don't know if you remember that night back in Glasgow when we were doing the first season. We sat around this table in this bar in that church. You remember that? And
yes, I do.
Oh, there are going to be conventions. I'm like, what is a convention? You're like,
oh, I know. I did.
And people are going to show up and they want to have a photograph with you and they want to talk to you and they want to, like, what are they going to do with that? What? And so for me, that's such a new thing. And flashing forward to now.
Yeah. I remember that conversation very well. People wouldn't believe it. They were saying, what? No. You really?
You'd already been around the world with The Hobbit, I would imagine.
Yeah. And especially something that comes from a book world like Outlander that already has a very, very strong existing fan base.
Yes.
They love it. They love this show. And I mean, when we were doing the show, speaking personally, it's very difficult to know how people are going to react to it because you're kind of in a little bubble.
Yeah.
You're just sort of stuck amongst yourselves. And it was only when we finally went to San Diego to show the first couple of episodes, that's when we really thought, okay, they're going to like this. So it was great. Actually.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there was a particular convention where it really hit home. And Graham, you mentioned San Diego Comic-Con, and I know you've done some big panels as well at New York. You know what I mean? Like introducing the new season. Is there a particular memory for either of you at a specific convention that just really stood out as like, woo, this is intense. This is awesome.
Oh wow, gosh!
I think London was quite big as well. The London Comic-Con. And San Diego definitely is probably the biggest one, and it was our premiere of the entire show. But at the time we were quite new. But I do remember just as a convention, people camping outside nights before to make sure they could actually get into the convention space.
Wow!
And it was, I think it was quite hot then as well. So I was like, what? People are camping out for 2 nights before to make sure. It's crazy.
Yeah. I know. I remember that myself. Yes, that kind of thing when you realize the dedication, and also I can't remember the specific convention I was at, but people coming up to me who'd traveled from Japan. They traveled from this was in Europe. The convention was in Europe. I can't remember where, but they traveled from Japan. They traveled from Siberia, China, and they were all there. And you really, I always take a moment to try and really respect that because that's an enormous undertaking to do that, and it speaks to how much it means to them, and you have to really take that on board and honor it, I think.
Yeah, true.
Graham, correct me if I'm wrong, but tell me, I want to talk a little bit about your guys' like early starts in the very early seasons, season 1, obviously, then season 2 and 3 for Geillis. This question comes in from a lot of fans, specifically Emily off our ex, Lisa Blumberg, and then even more specifically from Beach 360. I just want to hear a little bit about your early days on set, and then Beach 360 just made an interesting point, Graham, that your character wasn't supposed to be around as long as he was. Correct me if if I'm wrong there. But they're claiming that the fans are what kept your character going, just because of their persistence. But let's hear your take on it.
Well, my understanding from the books is that Dougal's character, and I'm hoping I'm not going to spoil this for anybody who hasn't seen it, dies towards the end of book 2.
Right.
That's how I remember it. He dies in a slightly different way in the book. It's only Jamie that kills him, whereas the way we filmed it, it was both Jamie and Claire. So my understanding was that he was always going to be in the 2 seasons. But my memories of being on set, I guess what's interesting, it's like any of those kind of jobs, especially when you know you're going to be in it for a while. You're meeting a whole new set of friends. I mean, these aren't people who are going to be just in your life for like a month or 2. This is going to be years. And so it's a fascinating sort of social mix as you start to feel each other out, get to know each other, start to socialize. And that was a big part of the early experience for me of Outlander, was actually the social life. I mean, I've always advocated that it should be an actual call on the call sheet. Turn up at the pub at 8:00 tonight and have dinner. So that was lovely. That was lovely getting to know them.
Lotte, similar experiences for you joining the cast early on?
Yeah, I mean, what was really special about being with it from the beginning, I mean, I've also been on shows where you sort of stream in later, which is also a special experience, but to be at the inception, it really does feel, especially now looking back, it feels, because it was so innocent then, it was just us doing that show in the mud somewhere. And we were all aware that it was based on books that had been around for so long. But, when I first heard about the show, I had no idea. It was like this whole world opening up. And speaking of, the fans always knowing more, in the beginning, I was like, well, I'm never going to know as much as they do. And
true.
It's just, but, being part of it from the beginning on, it just makes it's mostly now that I'm like, wow, that was really special, because now look what it's become and look how many people are involved, how many fans it's made, and how many people are working behind the scenes as well. The crew having worked on it for so long. I'm just really proud of having been there from the start and having remember being walked onto sets the first time when they were like, oh, hi. So, everybody introducing themselves, and Katrina and Sam were shooting a scene where she's putting some Band-Aids on him and stuff. And I remember walking in and just those little sneak peeks of their work and, sort of like behind the monitors. Those memories are just really special now.
I tell you, one of the things I remember first was the early stuff that we shot with Sam and Katrina outside of the cottage when she first meets the Highlanders in season 1. Yeah. It was horrific weather. I mean, awful. And this was like week 1. And I thought, oh no, this is my daughter. Hello, darling. She loves to say hello. Hello, darling. Are you okay? Are you okay?
Tell everybody your name.
What's your name? Hope. She's gone off camera now. No, it was in the weather, because the weather was so shocking. I really thought, because obviously I know Scotland very well, I was thinking, oh no, this could be it for years. Just because poor Kat was freezing. She just had a tiny slip on with lots of hot water bottles, and that was it.
Yeah. I remember thinking after a couple of months, she must have some godly supernatural power that she's not getting sick. Seriously, especially the first season, you're right. She was out on a horseback in the rain, wearing close to nothing but a nightgown, pretty much every day for 14 hours. How was she still alive? I was like, she's got to have some supernatural, God-given strength.
Because even the summer is the winter in Scotland. In many ways. So the sun's out more, but it's not exactly. You're not going to be sort of stripping off on the beach anytime soon. Well, they do. In fairness, Scots people do. But she was really tough. Yeah, I was very impressed actually, because she was in every scene.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and like you said, it shout out to the crew, the production design team. My gosh, like really just brought the show to life, and it's just such a beautiful. I mean, you really feel like you're there, back in time, like in Scotland. You know what I mean? At the time of all that was going on. My gosh, yeah.
Well, that was the first thing one of the first things I remember feeling when I watched it for the first time in San Diego. I suddenly thought, wow, this is like a movie. This is amazing. The standard of production, the photography and the costume and all the rest of it. I was very impressed.
Shout out from Christine Sercombe, who just said good morning from Australia. So that was a good morning to you, Graham.
Good day.
But a quick, to keep talking about it. You mentioned, Graham, one of the most difficult scenes, obviously, being in that downpour. So maybe this comes from Audrey Rush. They're curious, what was the hardest scene? Is there a particular hard scene? Lotte, we'll start with you, since Graham, you kind of touched on one, but then there's a particularly difficult scene that you remember shooting, either weather-based or horse-based, or stunt-based, that kind of sticks out to you?
I'm just glad I didn't have to do horse stuff, because that would have been. I'm not a hero anyway. And then if looking in the rain, you probably have to do that, but
we did a few horse things. Yeah.
I just had. I mean, I can't complain about this. I mean, I actually quite enjoyed it, but there was this dance scene in the forest, which was originally I think planned for February. And we'd been working with a choreograph, and, I used to be a dancer, so I was quite excited about the whole thing. And it had to be me being pregnant with this strap-on belly, but also not wearing a lot of clothes. And, the whole thing, I was just quite excited about it to get to do the dancey bits. And so, but originally it was in February. Obviously, Scotland being quite cold in that time of year, they were starting to talk about doing it in June instead. And I kept thinking, guys, I'll be dancing, I'll be sweating, it's no problem, I can do this. And they're like, yeah, but
foolish girl.
Yeah, we want you to survive this, all for the art, but still. And so even when we did it back in June, when they had already moved it to June, you're right, Graham, it's not like it's a summer with, exotic temperatures at all. So I remember doing that thing, and, the moving bit was fine, but then the next day we had to shoot the me lying on the ground, waking up, and then you're pretty much, there's like morning frost or something in the ground, and you wake and it was pretty cold. I'm glad they moved it.
Oh, gosh.
No complaints. I mean, there was no rain involved. I had a good old time.
Well, I tell you, thinking of that, one of the scenes that was the most challenging is one we never finally shot, thank goodness. They suggested early on in season 1 that one of the episodes would open with the Highlanders bathing naked in a river. And we were all going to be, I don't know, just joshing around and, having a great time, speaking. I mean, it would have been impossible to speak. You wouldn't have been able to speak. All you would have been concentrating on is not dying. And we did gently suggest they were American people who were planning this, and of course they had no idea what a Scottish river feels like in the summer. And this would have been like March, I think. And we said, no, a couple of us would die. A couple of us wouldn't make it out. That would be it. So we didn't do it, thank goodness. But in terms of ones that we did, I mean, there's difficult stuff for different reasons, I suppose.
Sure.
I mean, certainly doing the scene with Gary when Gary dies in season 2, I mean, that was emotionally difficult. And you have to sort of draw on different things and all the rest of it. But it was a very satisfying scene at the same time.
But that's how I agree with you, that the scenes that really force you to really go there because they're emotional. That's why we want to be actors. I mean,
sure.
That's like the juicy, the meaty stuff. When you read a script,
absolutely.
one of those scenes, you're like, yes, that's where it's at. Because it makes you feel so alive when you do something that's quite profound. And
sorry, go on, Mike.
No, I was just going to say, there's and so many of those moments in the show. I mean, because not only are we seeing the backdrop of Scotland and the wars and everything like that, but then there are these intimate moments, and that's what brings the show really to life. You know what I mean? Is obviously the writing of Diana, and then the show writers that took Diana's writing and really transposed it to the screen. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I think there were scenes certainly that I did, and certainly many other people did, that were more like plays, really. They were like small two-handers, three-handers. You'd be in a single space, and sometimes even the camera would just shoot it wide, so that it wouldn't even be interrupted in terms of the dialogue. So you would play the entire scene out, and sometimes this would be 5 or 6 pages. And you really had a sense of being in a theater. And because the sets, if they weren't actual physical sets, you were actually in the location.
Right.
It did bring a real sense of reality to it. Which was fun.
Yeah, and mostly, if you see any TV show now, we that most scenes are maybe like half a page or page and a half, maybe. So you never really get to really get into the scene. But I remember specifically from Outlander, I have so many scenes, especially with Katrina, where we're sat there and for a good 5-6 pages, we're just talking. So doing the scene takes a good 5 minutes sometimes, which is extraordinary. That doesn't sound like anything, but for an actor, that's so rare.
Oh,
I
very
love
rare.
Show. It's Diana's books, of course, but our writers on the show have just been so extraordinary in keeping the poetry of the books, but adding some to it by really honoring the intimacy of the scenes and the exchange that happens between two people.
Yeah, I think poetry is such a great word to describe it. Like mini vignettes or plays, Graham, the way you described it, I think both really fit, to the show, which is really cool. I have to go back to the bathing in the river for a second, only to use as a segue, because fans always want to know, Lotte, and I'm sure you've answered this question before, but David Bonfante, watching from Italy, wants to know about the bloodbath and that particular scene.
What
and
do you
how
want to know,
how I know, just very simply, how was the bloodbath? And love and support from Italy.
It was very good. I could highly recommend it to everybody who has a bloodbath available or could make it happen. Look, okay, so a couple of things have turned out to be true. When you take a bloodbath, it's really important to have handles in the bath, because blood makes you float, apparently. So you have to really grasp onto these handles to stay under.
It's just not something you'd ever know, is it?
No.
Think of it. We have these
Hopefully.
really qualified specialists who learned that on the day very quickly. The other thing is that because the blood was made of some type of glycerin with colorant, and I don't know, I suspect that it would have tasted sweet, but maybe that was just my fancy. But so when I walked out of the bath, my feet got extremely slippery. So what I was going for is this sort of cat-like predatory walk to the little John Bell. However, instead, and this is me walking mostly naked, I was mostly slipping and sliding. So they had to stick stuff to the tiles and stuff to my feet to not slide, sort of sandpaper on my feet, so I could actually walk in that manner. But honestly, it's still one of my favorite memories, because I remember that one of the producers, Matt, came to me weeks before, and this scene was written as just an interrogation scene where I'm just, asking Johnny or Youngie and all these questions. But he said, so how about we do this while you're taking a bloodbath? And I'm like, sure.
Which makes you wonder about Matt, obviously.
It does make you wonder.
Yeah.
I kind of, and he had this twinkle in his eyes. I'm like, sure, okay, let's do it. He's like, but really? Do you want to do that? I'm like, wait, you're serious? He's like, yeah. And then I thought, this is ludicrous, but also it could be quite an iconic moment. And it made sense for the character that she wanted to stay young. I think in the books, Geillis becomes quite obese over the years, because she's been on the island at the plantation for a while. And, to make it clear, I should have basically been heavier, but I wasn't. So this was a way that we could sell that she's older now, but she's staying young by taking these blood baths. And anyway, I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That was quite the journey.
I never got to have a blood bath. Oh, yeah. Apart from my own blood bath.
I can tell you that rubbing it off in the shower, it looked like a bit of a massacre.
Oh, yeah, that would have been nasty.
Yeah, that's the classic shot that they always show in the shower, is the blood just going into the drain.
Oh, wow.
I had to witness that. And also, as it turned out, so anyone who wants to try this at home, what have worked for me What worked for me is using like kitchen sponges with the sort of, scratchy side to it.
Oh my God, really? Scouring yourself. Wow, like a pan.
This could be your own video blog here, Lotte, is how to get rid of blood.
That's right.
I don't know.
It's a niche audience. It's a niche audience, but nevertheless,
a niche audience. Well, you know what? The fans right now are all suggesting that Lotte, you need to show up on Men in Kilts as a lass in a dress. So maybe Jen Caden wants to know, can you be on? Maybe you could bring that to Men in Kilts, and
of course, we'll get you to bathe in blood.
Oh my gosh! Yes. Oh my gosh!
I mean, Sam, I don't even suggest it to Sam. He would definitely put it in the show. My God. Yes, there's nothing that Sam won't do. Yeah.
So awesome. Let's. I want to go back to some of the production design things. Obviously, the set's beautiful, the stunt work. But we mentioned the costumes. And yes. Bree Hallman would like to know did you have a favorite costume, or what was the heaviest costume that you had to wear while filming Outlander? Favorite costume.
God.
Yeah.
Are your costumes really heavy, Graham? Because obviously,
mine.
Yeah, because the kilt is like a wraparound kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, it's comparative. I mean, my costume in The Hobbit was 70 pounds. So everything after that is just a small bit of chiffon in comparison. But I mean, mine, I wasn't really, you knew you were wearing it. You knew you were wearing the coat, especially when you put the coat on. But those sort of things really help you find the character as well.
Sure.
Costume is very important in helping you define that. So when I would come in the morning and you're wearing, say it's in the summer, you're wearing a t-shirt and shorts. When you put on that costume, you do to some degree become that character, and that was very helpful. Although Dougal, frankly, I think I had basically 3 costumes in the entire 2 seasons, because all the costumes, yes. Oh, yes, because we practically had a whole wagon train just for Katrina's costumes when we would go on the road, because there were so many. When you think this woman has traveled through time, and she's like a guest of Castle Lear, and we think she might be a spy, but we certainly give her lots of really nice outfits to wear. I used to think that was the only reason we were going out to get rent, was to pay for the costumes that we had to give her while she was back at the castle.
Didn't Miss Fitz sort her out? I thought that was a story behind her having more than just
but still,
yeah.
I mean, Mrs. Fitz's fingers and thumbs would have been red raw with the amount of sewing that she would have had to have been doing on her own. But no, I mean, that's fine. It's a license. I only had basically two outfits, I think, or 3, maybe 3.
I do remember the outfits being not only really heavy, but laden with mud. So if you're shooting outside, and for the ladies wearing the many layers of really long dress, then after only maybe half an hour of walking from A to B on set with the mud in the forest, definitely the lower parts of the dress would be covered in mud. And then, to spare you details, but like going to the bathroom, these tiny little porta potties where you have to climb stairs to get onto to get up in the cart. I mean, all of that was just, at some point I found myself just drinking less water so I wouldn't have to go, because it's so heavy. Those dresses are so heavy, especially.
I mean, the men didn't have it anywhere near as bad at all. In fact, the men's costumes were very practical. They were very easy to move around with, and they also kept you very warm. I was never cold on the set of Outlander.
Because speaking of all the cold that was outside, and the dancing in the forest, and the suggested scene of the dipping in the river, I do remember a scene. You were probably there as well, Graham, because I think that was a big banquet in the first season. But that was the day that Diana came to set. And she was in this dress, remember? I think it was a blue dress, beautiful.
That's right.
But she was stuck on the balcony where, obviously all the heat from the party would have gone up. So I remember looking at her thinking, I hope she's not going to faint, because she started sweat. And, obviously makeup made her look amazing and not sweaty. but I could just tell that the people up on the balcony were just barely holding it together because with all
a couple, they did faint. A couple of people did faint on the day. Wow. We heard them just bang. You know, we obviously carried on filming.
It must go on.
These things happen.
Yeah, come on. Speaking of costumes, two great things for each individual one of you from Prentice 1973. First off, they want to know, Graham, where do you get your amazing sweaters from? Because they're remarking that your sweater is equally as amazing as your costume.
This is from Scotland.
Oh, that looks like a nice
from Edinburgh.
Yeah,
it's from
beautiful.
Edinburgh. This was from a shop that I love in Edinburgh called Dick's. So
very nice. Very nice.
Yes.
And then Lotte for you.
Shop, but there you go.
Yeah, right. Prentice, also, her two daughters are both dancers, and just wondering from you, just about what your favorite type of dance is, and then how you were involved in dance and how that led into your acting career.
Ooh, good question. And I love that your daughters are dancers. So my favorite type of dancing is when there's no choreography. I kind of like to freestyle it a little bit. But I started quite late for a dancer. I was 16, which is kind of stone aged if you want to become a professional dancer. But I think I mostly acted my way through dance training. So I made it look in a way that people expected me to be a good dancer until they really saw what I could do, which was only half a pirouette and stuff. And it was very underwhelming, but I just acted my way through it. And I think I knew quite quickly that acting was probably the better life choice for me to make, which I did. But I will say that I don't regret having been a dancer and having trained, because physicality to me is so interesting, and the way somebody moves their body is so revealing of what's going on inside. In fact, we all know that most of our communication is through physical language, whether that's your facial expression or the way you hold your body, or even not even the shape, but the energy in your body. So I don't regret having been a dancer, and I still really use it in my acting.
That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then Graham, in turn, a huge fan of your work, your voice work on Castlevania. So excited for season 3 and the Uncharted games. What do you have what's the difference for you? Where does your passion lie? Do you like it, more physical acting? Do you like doing voiceover work? I'd love to hear a little bit just about your voiceover career.
Yeah. I love doing voiceovers. I've always enjoyed them. It's very different. I mean, apart from the obvious stuff where you just turn up, you can be wearing pajamas doing a voiceover. So you from a physical point of view, it's very easy. But from an acting point of view, people are always saying, what's the difference? Theater, film, voiceover, and I don't really see any difference between them personally. They all involve trying to speak truthfully. So that the character, that you honor the writing and you honor the character, and that's really it. I like sometimes the real intimacy that you can get with a voiceover performance. There's thinking particularly of Castlevania. There were moments in that where I could really feel that I could take things down, but it's an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, I just love doing them. I love. Because doing Castlevania, for instance, I was never in the room with any of the other actors. So you're always just acting in somewhat of a vacuum. So you'd have the director reading the other lines, and you would come in with your lines of dialogue. So you're playing a strange kind of dance, really, in a way that you don't on a physical set.
Wow. And have you been able to continue that during this? I know we're obviously in lockdown, but I've talked to a bunch of voice actors through these experiences, and they said, "Hey, the one business that's still going on is voice acting." We're able to do some things.
Yeah, no, I have. I mean, I've been doing mainly sort of documentary stuff for Nat Geo, doing kind of interesting stuff about leopards and lions and hyenas and snakes.
What is your lion voice, Graham?
Oh, yes, my lion voice. Yes, that's right. I do. That would be great if I actually had to do the voices of the lions. No, it's fascinating, though, because I'm really into nature and all of that kind of stuff and learning about it. that the stories that they tell in those documentaries. So I've been loving it. So yes, awesome. I've been doing that.
Awesome. Good to hear. We're almost out of time. I just want to remind the fans out there watching, this time flew by, that you can still purchase those one-on-one video chats. They'll be happening in a few days. So whether you're watching this live or recorded, definitely take advantage of those if you have more specific questions for these amazing folks. They're also doing autographs and video recorded messages. So if you're able, we know times are tough, but if you want to treat yourself, definitely do so. But I want to go back to Outlander for a little bit to kind of wrap things up. This question comes up in every panel, Outlander or not, especially since Sam has already admitted that he's taken some stuff from the Outlander set. So this is coming from Bertien Kai or Key. Yeah, apparently Sam has bragged on social media that he has taken props from Outlander. Do you have anything that you've taken as a memento that you're allowed to share here virtually from the set of Outlander?
I mean, I was very tempted when I saw all those pregnant bellies lined up in the prosthetic.
You should have totally taken one of those.
Should have taken a pregnant.
Use it for, truthfully, but I mean, I
should have taken one.
You should have. I would have shared, but I kind of forgot about it, and we used one every day, and we just, we breezed through it really quickly. But that would have been a fun little trinket because it looks so real. Sure. I mean, in hindsight, I should have probably stolen some of the little bottles in my laboratory.
Yes.
Because it was, I remember walking into that space and it was so elaborate. I almost felt like whatever I'm going to do in this scene, I'm not going to do it justice. I'm not going to do the space justice because there was so much energy and time put into every single little bottle and all the details. I was like, yeah, we need to have more scenes here. It's not fair for them to put so much work in just the once for one scene. And it would have been nice to have some bottles lined up here and there.
Yeah.
Next time.
I didn't. What did I? Well, Terry was very sweet and gave me my Dougal's bonnet that I wear in the show and my kilt. So I have the war chief's kilt hanging in the closet in there. I don't wear it much. It's not really required much when I go and get a coffee here in New Zealand to go dressed as a war chief. But you never know.
It might be.
You never know.
Very quickly.
You never know. But I really wanted from the show was my sword and my dirk.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there are huge problems that suddenly come into that because transporting a sword and a dirk in your hand luggage to New Zealand can be a little awkward. So what I've done is I've got Weta Workshop. I probably shouldn't say this, but anyway, Weta, who I obviously did the Hobbit with, they're making me a Highland broadsword and a dirk.
Gotta post that. That's going to be awesome. We're going to have to see that when it's done.
It's going to be so great. It's going to be so great. I'm actually really excited about this.
And not just a prop. Not just a prop. This is going to be a real weapon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh yeah. Nobody's going to break into my house.
That's amazing. This has been so awesome. I want to end on this final question because it obviously just came up, and we don't have to worry too much about TV spoilers. I know the fans of the show watch it the day before it comes out, but obviously, but there are some book spoilers coming up. So I just want to get a little bit in here at the end because Graham obviously returned as Buck in this most recent season, and we were so excited. I know you made a joke about it when you first came back, like who's this mysterious actor playing Buck?
Who's this guy?
MacKenzie. What was it like? Megan Mullins, Graham, and a ton of other fans are just wondering what it was like to return to the set. And then Lotte, I've got a follow-up question for you about Geillis, which again has a potential to return to the story, and if you'd be excited about that. So let's start with Graham, and then we'll end with Lotte.
Well, coming back was absolutely fantastic because I did think that I was going to be possibly coming back in flashbacks as Dougal. That's something that we had discussed, but it was actually the last day on Preacher, and the phone rang and it was Meryl, and she said, we'd like to bring you back. And I thought, oh, right. Okay. So flashbacks. And she said, as your own bastard son. And I'm like, wow. And then I had the makeup test for it. I was actually in Scotland shortly afterwards, and I did the makeup test, and they did the whole buck look. And my youngest daughter, who you just met, in fact, was there. And she looked at me, and my eldest is saying she was there too. And they looked at me and they said, "Well, you look really good, Dad," which was a little bit of a downer that, you know, when I'm in a wig with my beard dyed, I look good. But it was great. It was great to come back, great to be with the crew again. I got to work with Richard, who I'd never worked with before, who I met at conventions and all of that sort of thing. And he's a fun guy, Buck, you know, passionate, a man, you know, protective and very loving in his own particular way. So.
Would you ever believe that you'd be playing, the younger son of yourself?
Never. And that's why this business is so great, because literally anything could happen. Yeah. So yes, I am playing my own son.
So Lotte, intern, and again, whatever you're able to share, but and there have been some changes made from the books and such, but because of the time travel element and things that may or may not happen in upcoming books that we're not caught up to in this season, there is a potential for Geillis. What would you be interested in that, and would you be excited about potentially returning to the character?
Well, I wouldn't mind also playing my own son, but I think
you could. I would totally buy that. I would. Put your hair up, or not even put your hair up. You could, sure.
I think there are ways. Anyway, I don't know. Look, I mean, there have been many people suggesting that I would come back. Mostly fans, actually, at the conventions. At my table, people always tell me very detailed, this is when she comes back, this is where, this is how it looks. And all I can say is, I'm up for it. Everything is possible. I agree with you, Ray.
Absolutely.
Everything is possible in this industry. Everything is possible with a time travel piece. Yep. So we'll see.
Yeah. We'll have to think of a way that I could play some relative of yours. Well, I suppose, strictly speaking, I am. I already am. I'm playing your son.
Yeah.
Which is really mind-bending. I mean, that's...
Especially if the son went back to and then you're both there, Dougal and Gillian. Oh my God.
Blood bath.
Oh gosh.
He's watching his mum doing the blood bath.
No, now too much, too far, too hard.
Oh, no. That's years of therapy.
That's years of therapy. And I'm sure it's already, I had urged the fans out there, get on that fan fiction. We've just given you a little synopsis. Start writing. I know we've got to get out of here. I want to thank you so much. This is such a fun little chat to harking back on the season. Graham, thank you for joining us so early in your morning. Lotte, thank you for joining us so late in your evening. We have fans, again, tuning in from Australia, Italy, Germany, Brazil, Mexico, all around the world. We all love the show. Sassenach Whiskey Rounds for everyone, Beach 360 says. So thank you once again. One more big round of emojis, everybody, to Graham McTavish and Lotte Verbeek, the cast of Outlander. Good luck with everything that you have coming up. We wish you the best. And wish you well, and we appreciate
Thank you very much. Bye, darling. Bye-bye. Bye, Mike.
Bye.
Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.
Hey, this is Alex Malari Jr., and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be sure to hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Your Emperor commands it. Thanks for watching.